All right, hey people, Russ Jensen. So it's about 10 minutes to 4, the 13th day of January, 2017, here in the wonderful Republic, the beautiful dirt, Utah. So now I want to start talking a little bit more, going back in to explain a little better about these rights. Your rights remaining from the state of primitive communion, your rights which you cannot be denied or deprived, your right of necessity, these rights of individuals. And those are all found and defined for us in the book Law of Nations at Article 1, Section 8, Clause 10. Book 1 for the rights of individuals at Section 128. Book 2 for your rights to remain from the state of primitive communion, the rights which cannot be deprived, 116, 117, and the right of necessity at Section 119. But I think it's instructive or helpful for people to stop and think about what is a constitution. What is it really? Right? Now, that word gets thrown around all the time. Constitution this, Constitution that, the state constitution, federal constitution, constitutional law. But what is it? Really? A little bit of history, truthful bit that you've been told about. We fought for independence from another country, a king. It was very oppressive. Had all those complaints that they had, and over time they just kept trying to find remedy, trying to find a work solution out, but they never happened, so they went to war, did all those things, okay? But what is it really? It's words on paper. What is? It's the, I guess, the collective will of the people at that time, stating, hey, this is how we're going to be governed. This is our form of government. This is what we're consenting to as free men. And with the understanding that it is a document that must be honored at all times by government, because it is written for government. It was written by the people to tell the government what the government could do, how it was to be structured, how it was to be run, and the limits of the power of the government, what they can and cannot do to the people. And they made provision in there for understanding, these are very smart men, understanding that life happens, things change. So they made provisions for the Constitution to be able to change as the needs of society would change. But it had to be done according to very precise, very defined process. Changing Constitution is a big deal, really is. Okay? So, and that's found in Article 5. The rules, the requirements that must be met in order to make a change of any kind to this document known as the Constitution for the United States of America. Or the Constitution of the United States, whatever you want to call it, doesn't matter. Okay? The other understanding is that it is fundamental law. And it may not just be changed at any time by government, the very organization that the document creates cannot then go and change the document without going through the process required to do so. And a violation of any provision of that document then means that they are operating without authority. Now, I'm not sure what's so hard for people to understand about that fact. Your governments in existence, in operation today, do not have constitutional, lawful authority to do anything. They can't write one bill, one legislative act, nothing with proper, lawful, constitutional authority, because they have violated They have attacked the very Constitution that brings them into existence, number one, and the very Constitution that binds the people to the government, and the government to the people through consent. Now, because they claim that you elected certain officials and they got together and did certain things, that was your consent, gave them permission to violate provisions of that document. And pretend like that's okay, it doesn't matter. But we have authority anyways. They have authority through violence and force, not consent and law. Your state governments have a duty, an indispensable obligation laid upon them by that document known as the Constitution of the United States of America to make no thing but gold and silver coin as payment in debt. That means no thing. No pieces of paper, no checks, no credit cards, nothing but gold and silver coin. The fact that they have rebelled, allowing that to happen, then because your federal government, that was also created by this document, has failed to enforce that provision. They therefore have no authority. Also, they have failed in their known duties. Right? They're the people that force that upon the states, remove the gold and silver coin under some pretext of a banking emergency, and maybe it was real, maybe it wasn't. It doesn't really matter. It's passed. And if they wanted to get their Federal Reserve notes in and these things to be used as payment in debt, they needed to go through the proper process at Article 5, make the amendment. But they didn't do that. They operate without authority. Now, in our book, Law of Nations, which is our law, our jurisdiction, our authority, there are a number of references that talk about what happens when the sovereigns, the sovereignty, operate outside the excess or outside the bounds of their authority. What happens when they attack, when they violate the contracts, the constitutions of the state. And that's exactly how it says it. They violate the Constitution of the state. They've attacked it. They have no authority. They have no permission. They're operating as a criminal enterprise, which is what they're doing. It doesn't matter how much you dress it up, people. They don't have constitutional lawful authority to do anything at this point. Especially considering the fact that they continue to lie to you and me and us, everybody, that the Constitution is valid. What is that? There's no provisions in that document known as the Constitution of the United States, America, or United States that allow for certain provisions to be applied and certain provisions not to be applied. It's all or nothing. So hard for people to understand about that. What's so hard for my elected officials to understand about that? You guys don't have authority to do anything until you get this situation resolved, and you require proper jurisdictional authority, which you don't have right now. You can call yourself anything you want. There's also provisions in that book, Law of Nations, that tell us what we can do when we've been abandoned by the sovereign or we've been attacked by the sovereigns. Our rights of necessity then come into play. We're free to do whatever we need to do to ensure our survival, to meet our indispensable obligations of life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, those unalienable, unalienable rights that everybody talks about. So understand that fact, people. That is a fact. Cannot be made to go away, can't be hidden, can't be made to pretend it doesn't matter. It does. We can talk about all the other things, the requirements of the Congress to publish regulations, publish the law that applies to the general population, the de jure citizens standing on the dirt out in the republics. If it applies to them, Your controlled substance acts at the federal level are not in the Federal Register. Oh, they have titles in there that lead off to other things. When we start checking through the table of parallel authorities, okay, don't have it in there. Why do you think they had to write a constitutional amendment to prohibit alcohol? Alcohol is a commodity. Cannabis is a commodity. They don't have permission to regulate those things like that, and they know it. Okay? That's why Title 18 isn't in the Federal Register either. Okay? Those apply to the territories, the dirt that they have control of. District of Columbia, the real territories. Instrumentalities is what? An organization that they've now tried to make you part of, lied to you about it. Huh? That applies to me if I'm actually really standing in the dirt that they own, territories, real ones. Huh? Or I'm really actually a real officer, agent, employee, or custodian in a true literal sense. Or I have voluntarily, with full knowledge and consent, to be one of their people, which I'm not. Okay? They're United States district courts or territorial courts, and they have a lot of authority in the territories. But in the republics, in the dirt of the republics of the Union States, they're limited to civil injunctive relief in a RICO action. That's it. Okay? District courts for the United States, on the other hand, have authority to operate out here in the states, in the dirt republics, under Admiralty and Maritime. Well, they can do it on law and equity also. That's the only place, that's the only time that the Admiralty and Maritime jurisdiction can be brought to bear against, say, de jure state citizens standing in the dirt of the land. Okay? Your state courts don't have permission to operate in Admiralty and Maritime jurisdictions, period. Ever. Never been granted to them, never will be. And your United States Supreme Court, what everybody believes is the Supreme Court in Article 3, and that's fine, it can be it. If you believe that, it's not true, but has stated that specifically. Admiralty and Maritime jurisdictions are reserved for the United States government, that organization. Okay? So, simple reading of their own rules and regulations tell you that most of the things they're bringing to bear upon you don't apply to you. Never have, never will. And particularly if you start to understand who and what you are, that you are the lawful sovereign authority that they require your consent from in order to govern. And that consent is given in that document known as the Constitution of the United States of America. Detailed specifically in the words on that parchment, which, by the way, may have hemp. Okay? They don't have permission to do anything outside of that. Now, they claim in Article 4, our territorial, because our 9 men that we got to say this for us. We can do whatever we want, the territory, as long as it's not specifically prohibited by the Constitution, which is okay? Your government, criminal organization, period, end of story, okay? Don't have legitimate authority, don't have permission to do most things they're doing, don't have constitutional authority. Now that Constitution, like any other contract or compact, according to their own rules, because they choose not to be bound by it, doesn't mean it's still not in force and effect. It just doesn't apply to them, so they say. So maybe it's not in force and effect for them, but it is for me. I've made that conscious, voluntary decision. I understand what I am, where I'm standing in the dirt, and that document applies to me to use as a defense mechanism to limit the reach, limit the authority, the power of this so-called governmental organization. Now, the fact that they claim it doesn't apply to them because they're outside of it somehow, well, then I guess that means I'm standing in occupied territory, aren't I? Been invaded by a foreign enemy. My state sovereigns then have failed to protect me from invasion, and the federal sovereignty has failed to protect me from invasion, foreign or domestic. Okay? So, I'm not making this stuff up, people. And like I said, I don't want people running around making problems or causing problems for yourself. I don't want to get anybody in trouble. You just need to stop and start to think for yourselves. Think about reality. People are smart. A lot smarter than I am. Most of you. In fact, all of you, I'd say, are. So, this isn't made up stuff, okay? And it's a very simple process we're going to be going through. And what are they going to say? How can they answer these simple questions? They can't. And it's important that we keep them on simple questions, because guess what? Your children, your grandchildren, your friends and neighbors also, but mainly your children, if you're really true about understanding what you are, really true about operating under the rule of law, they need to be able to understand what it is that you're doing. And you can share this with them of saying, hey, I'm asking questions, simple questions about the Constitution, whether it applies or not. Your kids know what's going on. Your teenage kids especially understand what's going on. In the early 20s, they know for sure that what's going on right now is unlawful, illegal, is fucked up. Sorry, excuse my language. Hey, they've been sold a bill of goods. They're being extorted. They are being murdered. They are being poisoned, force-fed, poisoned by the very governmental organizations that they claim, those organizations claim they have lawful authority to do these things. They don't. The purpose of government is to provide protection and benefits, but for all the people. All men created equal under law. No, they've taken your authority you've delegated to them, abused it, turned against you, to create advantageous situations for a small group of people, them and their buddies, their criminal buddies, at your disadvantage. So, I won't talk about the things that should be happening. I'm just saying, start understanding, read this simple document, and think about what's going on around you. Okay? So, I'll come back now. I'm going to come back now and talk again. Start talking about these rights remaining from the state of primitive communion, rights which you cannot be deprived, your rights of individuals, and the rights of necessity, which are protected for us, codified for us. Language that prevents the government from doing anything in regards to these issues as constitutional fundamental law, not only of the United States of America, but of every continent, every place that humanity happens to be walking around. Everywhere. So, I'll talk to everybody soon.